Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Our mission today is digging into the sources on Tonix Pharmaceuticals Holding Corp. We've got financial reports, analyst notes, clinical updates, all of it. And the big question we're trying to answer for you is, with all the recent news, is now a good time to buy this stock? We're aiming to pull out the really critical insights, see if that, frankly, aggressive bullish rating the market's giving it holds water. And hey, before we dive in, if you find this helpful, please hit subscribe, give us a like, and definitely leave a comment below if there's a specific company you want us to break down in a future analysis.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. Tonix is definitely in that high growth, but also, let's be honest, high risk biopharma category. For ages, it was all about the R&D speculation, but things really changed this past summer. That shift, from just research to potentially becoming a commercial company, that's driving everything right now. The volatility, the opportunity, that's where we need to focus.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get to the chase then. The analyst reports we looked at, they slap a pretty hefty bullish rating on Tonix, 8.5 out of 10. That's strong conviction.
Yeah.
So what's behind that? Why are analysts seemingly so sure right now? What's the number one factor driving that bullishness?
It really boils down to one huge event, a truly transformative milestone back in August 2025. That was the FDA approval for their lead drug, Tonmya. It's a sublingual tablet, cyclobenzaprine base, specifically for treating fibromyalgia in adults.
Okay, Tonmya.
And the significance here is twofold. First, the sources really hammered this point. It's the first new drug the FDA has approved for fibromyalgia in, get this, over 15 years.
15 years, wow.
Yeah, a huge gap in treatment options. And second, it's considered first in class. It's a non-opioid analgesic, so you put those together, huge unmet need, novel mechanism, non-opioid. This isn't just another approval, it's potentially the start of a major revenue stream for a patient group that's been waiting a long time.
Right. So the key thing for you, the listener, is figuring out if that one approval can really justify the excitement. They seem to be moving quickly on the commercial side, too. I saw the launch is planned for Q4 2025, probably looking at around, December 10th? And that's flagged everywhere as a big near-term catalyst.
They have to move fast. They can't afford delays now. And they've already made moves, brought in Ganesh Kamath back in September as head of market access. This guy's got 25 years of experience. His job is crucial. Talk to the payers, figure out pricing, make sure doctors can actually get this reimbursed for patients.
Makes sense. Market access is key.
Absolutely. Without it, even a miracle drug can flop. So hiring him shows they're laser focused on turning that clinical win into actual sales. And, this FDA win, it also kind of validates their whole approach to central nervous system diseases, boosts the pipeline's credibility.
Okay, the Tonmya story is definitely powerful. But approvals, launches, that stuff costs a ton of money.
Let's talk fundamentals. Can the company actually afford this big pivot? I did see some strong revenue growth numbers jumped almost 30% last year, from about $7.7 million in 2023 up to just over $10 million in 2024.
That growth is definitely a positive sign, yes.
Yeah.
But we got to keep it in context. This is still fundamentally a company that's been pouring money into R&D for years. So yeah, revenues are climbing, but margins still negative. They're burning cash to fund the science and now, building out the whole sales infrastructure.
Okay, still burning cash.
But, and this is the key financial insight from the reports, look at the trend in their net loss. It's actually improving sequentially. The loss narrowed pretty significantly, from around $22 million in Q4 of 24 down to roughly $17 million in Q1 of 25. That suggests they're getting a better handle on costs, tightening things up as they gear up for those Tonmya sales dollars to hopefully start rolling in next year. And didn't they also beat earnings expectations in Q1? That seems to back up the idea of better operational control.
Yeah, EPS came in at negative $2.84. The street was expecting more like negative $3.09, so an 8% positive surprise. That sends a decent signal.
It definitely does. And regarding the balance sheet, it's pretty much the standard biotech playbook we see. Low long-term debt, which is good, but they rely heavily on raising money by selling stock equity raises. It's common when you're pre-commercial or just starting out.
Right, the necessary evil.
Exactly. It means liquidity risk, and crucially for current shareholders, it means dilution risk. Your slice of the pie gets smaller, free cash flow is still negative, no surprise there. But that improving net loss trend, that's what gives the market confidence they can manage operations and, importantly, go back to the market and raise more capital when they need it.
Okay, and to put it all in scale, the market cap right now is hovering around, $217 million?
That's right. Which feels, kind of small for a company that just got FDA approval and is about to launch a drug. It's just the market is pricing in a lot of maybe value from the rest of their pipeline, right?
Precisely. It tells you Tonix isn't being valued just on Tanya. There's significant optionality baked in from the other assets.
Okay, good segue. Let's talk about that pipeline, because Tonix is definitely not a one-trick pony. That 8.5 bullish rating, it needs more than just Tanya succeeding. It banks on the rest of the pipeline, too. So beyond fibromyalgia, what are the other potential blockbusters or key assets we need to watch?
Yeah, the pipeline is where a lot of that speculative high upside potential comes from. And they have some really interesting things with strong regulatory signals.
Hmm.
You've got TNX 1300, that's their novel approach for treating acute cocaine intoxication, very serious unmet need. And the FDA agrees they granted it breakthrough therapy to designation.
Which speeds things up considerably.
It's exactly faster development, faster review. Then there's TNX 801, that's their vaccine candidate for Mpox and smallpox, another area of, significant public health interest. And don't forget, they aren't exactly starting their sales effort from zero. They already have a couple of migraine products on the market, Zembrace, Simtouch, and Tosymra. That means they have some existing commercial infrastructure and experience.
Right, not starting completely cold. So that deep pipeline really sets up Q4 2025 to be incredibly busy. What should you, the listener, be tracking over the next, say, 3 months? Besides the Tanya launch itself, obviously.
Okay, beyond the commercial ramp-up for Tanya, keep an eye out for the Q3 earnings release that's slated for November 11th. But the real potential share price movers, the things that could cause volatility, that's going to be the expected top-line data readouts from the big trials. We're talking pivotal data updates for both TNX 1300, the cocaine drug, and TNX 801, the Mpox smallpox vaccine. Any positive news there could seriously add fuel to the fire, potentially justifying a much higher valuation.
And there was something else significant that happened earlier this year, the index editions, right? They got added to the Russell 2000 and 3000 in June.
Yes. And that's a bigger deal than it might sound.
Explain that. Why is that a so what moment?
Well, think about it. Being added to major indices like the Russell means that all the index funds and ETFs that track those indices have to buy the stock. It creates automatic, passive demand.
Forced buying.
Forced buying, exactly. Plus, it usually triggers broader analyst coverage, more institutional research. It basically puts the company on the map for a much wider pool of professional investors. It acts as a kind of validation.
Got it. So with all this seemingly good news, the approval, the pipeline, the index inclusion, it's probably no shock the analyst consensus is a strong buy.
Yeah.
We see average 12-month price targets all over the map, though, from around $17 up to $70. But then you see these absolutely wild outlier targets. I saw one model mentioning like $3,277.
Yeah. You always see those in biotech.
Be honest, is that $3,000 plus target even remotely grounded in reality? Or is that just pure blue sky thinking, where every single drug becomes a multi-billion-dollar blockbuster?
It reflects the sheer optionality you get with a diverse biotech pipeline. But yes, it's largely theoretical fantasy land. To get anywhere near that number, you'd need Tanya to be a massive commercial success. Plus, you'd need flawless execution, quick approvals, and blockbuster outcomes for both TNX 1300 and TNX 801.
Okay, so everything goes perfectly.
Everything. We mentioned that outlier just to show the absolute maximum theoretical ceiling if every star aligns. But realistically, you should anchor your expectations much closer to that, $17 to $70 consensus range.
Appreciate the reality check there. Before we jump to the charts, we should probably touch on the market chatter. It's unconfirmed, strictly rumors swirling around, but
whispers
about potential partnerships with big pharma companies, especially maybe around commercializing the vaccine candidate. And just general M&A buzz. That FDA win and getting into the Russell indices definitely makes them look more attractive as a potential target.
It absolutely does. Success breeds interest, but again, purely speculation at this point.
Okay, let's shift gears to the technicals, the stock chart, especially given how volatile this thing is. You mentioned 14% volatility. For you, the investor trying to time an entry or just understand the price action, what are the key levels and signals right now?
Well, the chart actually shows a pretty clear momentum shift recently. Looking at it as of early October 2025, the stock's bounced hard off those multi-year lows it hit earlier. It's been making higher lows since Q2, which is generally a positive sign, suggests a potential trend reversal is underway. The recent trading has been quite tight, mostly between $24 and $25.50 or so.
Okay, tight range. What about support and resistance? Where are the lines in the sand?
Key support level to watch is down around $22.75. That's important because it lines up pretty closely with the 200-day simple moving average.
The long-term trend line.
Exactly. It's a big psychological and technical floor. On the upside, resistance looks like it's around the $36 mark, which is near the shorter-term 50-day simple moving average. The good news for bulls is that the price is currently above that long-term 200-day average, which is generally seen as bullish. And momentum, measured by the 14-day RSI, it's sitting right around 49, basically neutral. Not overbought, not oversold.
Okay, interesting technical setup. We've painted a pretty positive picture overall. The approval, the pipeline potential, the technicals look okay. But this is biotech. And that 14% volatility screams risk. The sources were very clear about the dangers. So let's be blunt. What are the major pitfalls? What absolutely must potential investors understand before jumping in?
Yeah, you cannot ignore the risks here. The sources really highlight two critical interconnected ones. First, it's financial risk. Like we discussed, Tonix isn't profitable yet. They depend on the capital markets selling stock to fund everything. The Tonmya launch, the R&D for the other drugs.
The dilution risk again.
Precisely. Every time they sell new shares to raise cash, your ownership stake gets diluted. It's a constant balancing act for companies like this. And there's always the risk they might struggle to raise cash on favorable terms if the market sours. Liquidity risk. The second major risk is the inherent clinical and regulatory risk. Tanya is approved, great, but a huge chunk of the current valuation, and certainly those higher price targets, depends heavily on the rest of the pipeline succeeding.
Right, the cocaine treatment, the Mpox vaccine.
Exactly. The big clinical trial results for those drugs, they are essentially binary events. They either hit their endpoints and the stock likely flies, or they miss and the stock could get crushed. You're still placing a significant bet on successful R&D outcomes beyond just Tonamya. Any delays or failures there will severely impact the valuation.
So definitely not a set it and forget it type stock.
Absolutely not. High potential reward, but very real risks attached.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Summarizing our look at the sources, the overall investment thesis is bullish. That 8.5 out of 10 rating seems justified, primarily driven by Tonaranya finally crossing the FDA finish line and getting ready for launch. Plus, you have those strong regulatory tailwinds like breakthrough therapy for the pipeline assets.
Exactly. And the sources give a pretty clear idea of the investment horizon here. It looks attractive potentially in two ways. First, as a short-term catalyst-driven trade. Over the next, say, 3 months, you're watching earnings, key clinical data readouts, maybe playing that partnership speculation angle. And second, it could be a long-term upside investment for those willing to bet on the company successfully commercializing, not just Tonaraya, but eventually bringing those other late-stage assets like TNX 1300 and TNX 801 to market too. That's where the really big potential value lies.
Right. So here's a final thought for you to mull over, tying this all together. Tonix spent years in R&D, finally got this huge win with Tonmya, and is now pivoting to become a commercial company. Now imagine the Q4 launch goes really well. Imagine Tonmya's initial sales figures exceed what the market is expecting. How does that change the calculation? Does strong commercial success with the first drug significantly de-risk the entire R&D pipeline in the market's eyes? Will investors suddenly value the cocaine and Mpox candidates higher just because Tonmya is selling well? Or will the market still demand proof? Will those pipeline assets still need to deliver successful trial data on their own before the company gets credit for them, especially to justify those really high analyst targets? It's this fascinating question about how a company transitions from promise to proven execution.